Hi kids, it's Mrs. Marburger again. This is the follow-up video to the story The Gardener that I had posted, I guess, yesterday. We had read the story together, and so this is the actual lesson that goes with it. So I'm going to run through some of the questions, review how to set up your organizer to organize your thoughts to do your writing, and then you can go and get to work yourself. So when we do these questions, we're just going to talk about them. I'm going to give you a minute or so to think about the answers before I start talking about the answer. So what you might want to do is grab some paper and a pencil, or grab someone else to talk with, and you can just talk through these answers. So, and you're also going to want to have the story with you so you can flip back. Remember, you always should be looking back at the story when you're answering questions, just to make sure that you're getting the answers right and you're looking in the right spots. So, so get your pencil, paper, your story, grab a family member to come sit with you and talk about the story, and we'll get started. All right, so yesterday, the story that we read was The Gardener, and the main character's name was Lydia Grace. She was a little girl about your age, and I did ask you to think about the word generous and what made Lydia Grace so generous. So hopefully you thought about that a little bit. If you hadn't thought about it, maybe think about it now, because that's going to be part of the question that you're answering at the end. Okay, so here is the first question. Describe why Lydia Grace goes to live with her uncle. So you're going to go back in the story and find the letter that she wrote that describes why she's leaving the country for the city. So go back, and I'll give you a hint. It's towards the beginning. So take a minute and see if you can go back and find the letter where it talks about why she's leaving. If you're going to take a minute to look for that answer, you might want to pause the video. Okay. So the reason that she's leaving to go to the big city to live with her Uncle Jim is the answer is in the letter that was written on August 27th. And the reason is her family is struggling. She lives with her mom and her dad and her grandmother. And remember, it's during the Depression. And so her parents, if you look at the letter, it talks about how her dad is now out of work. He lost his job, and that nobody's asking Mama to make dresses anymore. So she must be a dressmaker, a seamstress. Her dad lost his job. Grandmom doesn't work. So things are they're really struggling, right? And so they ask Uncle Jim to take her in, okay? Uncle Jim runs a bakery, which I didn't realize in the very, very beginning, but didn't take too long to figure that out. So, okay, here's your next question. So you're going to go back in the story and find examples from the text or pieces from the text that answer these questions. So question number 1 is, what is something that Lydia knows a lot about? Question 2 is, what is something that Lydia knows nothing about? And then the third question is, when does Lydia mention Uncle Jim smiling or not smiling? So take a minute. You have 3 questions to answer. You can pause the video, look for the answers, and then come back and join me and we'll talk about it. Okay, so question number 1 was, what does Lydia know a lot about? And the answer to that is in the letter that was written on September 3rd. She knows a lot about gardening, right? That she talks about that throughout the whole story. She loves gardening. What is something that she knows nothing about? That's in the same letter, September 3rd. She knows nothing about baking, I believe it says. And I wondered why she even talked about that at first, because I didn't know Uncle Jim had a bakery. So I thought to myself, why is she saying she knows nothing about baking? What does that have to do with anything? When later on in the story, I realized he had a bakery, then it made sense to me why she was talking about that. And the third question, when does Lydia mention Uncle Jim smiling or not smiling? Well, I wrote down September 5th, she wrote about it, February 12th, April 27th, May 27th, and June 27th, and also July 4th. July 4th was the big reveal of her surprise to Uncle Jim. But she talks about him smiling or not smiling a lot in this story. So if a character is talking about one specific thing over and over and over again, what does that tell you? It's probably pretty important to that character, right? She talks about it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different letters that she writes. So it's on her mind, right? And all she wants is for poor Uncle Jim to just smile. She thinks he's kind of a crabby guy, always in a bad mood, and she just wants him to smile, wants him to be happy. And he eventually does, right? Okay, so when Lydia gets to the big city, what is she excited to find when she first sees her uncle's bakery? So she gets to the bakery, find the letter where she first gets to the big city. It should be September 5th. And what is she excited to see? Did you find it? The window boxes. And hopefully you know what window boxes are. Window boxes are usually made out of wood, and they hang from windows. That's why they're called a window box, and usually plant flowers in them. And why she was so excited about this is because Lydia loves to plant flowers. She loves planting anything. She loves planting vegetables, any kind of plants. So when she saw that, she thought, oh, this is perfect. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Plant plants and flowers in those window boxes. Next question. What words describe where Lydia gets dirt for planting? Where is it that she's getting the dirt to plant? Find the letter where it talks about that. I'll give you a minute. Okay. She talks about it in the March 5th letter, and she's getting the dirt from the vacant lot. Does everybody know what the word vacant means? If it's a vacant lot, it means there's nothing there. It's empty. If something's vacant, it's empty. So that's where she is getting her dirt from. Next question. What does the author mean by April showers bring May flowers? I bet you've heard of that saying before. It's in the April 27th letter. April showers bring May flowers. Well, what I think the author means is that, first of all, we know Lydia Grace loves planting. We know she's planted seeds. And we also know that in April, in spring, there tends to be a lot of rain. And sometimes people don't like rain, but Lydia likes rain because she knows that when it rains, it's actually good for her flowers and the seeds that she planted, because when it rains in April, that means in May, they're going to start poking their little shoots through the soil, and she's going to get to see all of the plants that she worked so hard to plant, those seeds, they're going to start blooming. So she is excited about May because those showers that are coming in April mean flowers will be coming in May. All right. Here's a question for you. How many months passed between the first letter and the last letter? So really, it's asking how long was Lydia with her uncle, because the very first letter was right before she left. And then that last letter was when she found out she was going home. So by figuring this out, you're figuring out about how long she spent away from her family, her mother and father and her grandmother, and she was living with her uncle. So take a minute and figure that out. Okay, so the first letter was written August 27th, 1935, and then the last letter was written July 11th, 1936. So that was 11 months. 11 months, that's, well, a year is 12 months, so 11 months is almost a year. So that means she was away from her family for almost a year. Could you imagine being away from your family for almost a year? I can't even imagine. I bet it was very difficult for everybody, not just Lydia Grace, although it seemed like she adjusted pretty well to living with her uncle. But think about her mother and her father and her grandmother. I bet they missed her terribly. So that's a long time to be away. All right, here is your big question. And this is the one where you're going to be doing your writing, okay? So it says, in her letter to Uncle Jim, Lydia Grace says, I am small but strong, and I will help you all I can. How can the impact of one small individual make such a big difference? So let's read that again. Let's think about what we're being asked to do. We are thinking about the saying, what she said, I'm small but strong, and I'll help you all I can. So remember, Lydia Grace is just a young girl, and she is not a baker, and she doesn't know how to do those things, but she is willing to learn, and she's willing to do the best that she can. So you have to think about how Lydia Grace, a small individual, could make such a big difference in her Uncle Jim's life and the life of others around her. So I'm sorry, my dogs are barking because Mr. Marburger just got home. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to make your organizer. Remember, you take a piece of paper, you're going to fold it hot dog style, and then you're going to fold it this way and then this way into thirds. And then when you undo it, you're going to have 6 blocks. So the first one is going to be your explicit, meaning you're pulling things straight from the story. And you'll start by saying, in the text it states, and then you'll have a piece of evidence in that block. The next block is your implicit. This tells me that. So this is where you're coming up with your own ideas. And then the last block is your analysis, which is just the big picture or the big idea for this top section. So in the text it states, this tells me that, and then the big idea. And then you're going to do it again. I'm going to ask you to find 2 pieces of evidence from the story to put on your organizer to use in your TDA. And remember, you're thinking about how the impact of one small young girl can make such a big difference in the lives of others. So go into the story, find 2 places where Lydia does something that might seem not like a huge deal, but really in the big picture, it meant a whole lot to someone else in the story. Just 2 this time. You don't have to do 3. Also, remember, you need to then write an introduction. And in the introduction, you need to include the title of the story. So a good beginning sentence would be, in the story, The Gardener, Lydia Grace, and then continue that sentence. Continue however you want to say it. Lydia Grace is a young girl that has to leave her family or is a young girl that has to move in with her uncle temporarily. And then go on and you're going to list those 2 pieces of evidence briefly, but you're not going to go into detail in the introduction. You're just going to kind of state them. And then when you do the body, that's where you go into the explanation and you give more detail. Remember also, you're going to be using quotes around the information that you're taking directly from the text because it's someone else's writing and you want to give them credit for that. And the way you show that is by using quotation marks. So don't forget to put those around the pieces of information that you're taking and copying from the text. And then the last thing you'll do is write your conclusion. And then your conclusion is just kind of wrapping everything back up. You're almost just restating what you said in your introduction. Your conclusion might only be 2 or 3 sentences. It doesn't need to be extremely long. Okay. I think that is everything. So it is really important. I know it's not always easy to write these, but it is important to practice these because 4th grade is not the only grade that you're going to be doing this in. We're introducing it here, but each year you're going to do more and more, and they're going to add more and more to the writing. So you want to keep practicing it so that it gets easier and easier for you. If you have any questions about it, remember I'm right here. Just email me. I check my email all day long. So even if you think it's a silly question, just let me know and I'll get back to you, or I'll send you a video about it, or I'll contact your parents and explain something to them. Just do the best that you can, okay? And remember the non-negotiables also: capital letters, punctuation. You have to indent for each new paragraph. Capitalize the letter I. And I guess that's it. All right, try your best, guys. Miss you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.